Hello, my name is Zane, and I was a missionary to Madagascar this summer.
Hi, my name is Bella, and I went to Colombia this summer.
Hi, my name is Nakat, and I went to Colombia this summer.
So, all the teams that were going out all over the world, we were at boot camp for 2 weeks before we went out onto the field. And that was really a time to just prepare us for the work projects we were going to be doing for evangelism, physically getting ready, and also mentally and spiritually. And so that was a lot of fun. But at the very beginning of the day, we got woken up at 5:30 by a bell that sounded all over boot camp, and we had to be ready out of our tents with our backpacks, water bottles, everything in a line in 5 minutes. And so that was quite an adventure, trying to get 4 people in a tent out in 5 minutes or less. So that was great.
And then after that, your team would go line up and wait for your start time for the OC, also what is known as the obstacle course. And then they had a time limit. I think it's about 20 minutes to do the whole obstacle course. And after they would say go, you ran into a little bus, and it was complete silent. Your team had to be complete silent, and then you all sit down. And then they had this thing called a count off, which is everyone on your team had a number, and you had to go from 1 to whatever your team was. And then they have to do it in a certain amount of time to get out of the bus. And then after that, you go to this slab of concrete with the books of the Bible, and you need to put the books of the Bible in order from Genesis to Revelations. And then after that, after they said you completed that, you'd run a little ways to this hill, and then you go over the hill, and then you go through a little concrete tunnel. And then from there, you run these little trails in the woods, and then you get to this thing called a slough, which was basically a big pool of water with ropes over it, which you had to run, grab onto the rope, and swing yourself over. And then after you completed that, you'd go to the maze, and then your team would link arms and then walk through the maze and try and find the end. And then after that, they had these little tires you would step into, which did the 10 plagues. And then every time you stepped in, you had to yell the 10 plagues. And then after that, you run to this thing called a Jacob's ladder, which is a big cargo net that went straight up into the air that you had to climb onto. And then you had to climb over it and down it. And then they had the Red Sea, which was attached to that, which is another big cargo net that went over a body of water that you had to climb over. And after you completed that, you ran into these big walls that you did. Your team, everybody had to get over to try and complete the obstacle course in a little bit of time, which was pretty fun. And after that, it was over, and then you're off to breakfast.
So after we had breakfast, we had our group devos for half an hour, and then we go into the big top, which is this giant circus tent where everyone had their own seating areas. And they would kind of run through a couple things with us throughout the day and just tell us kind of what it would be like. So after they explained to us what we'd be doing, we went off with our teams to our different classes, and we'd learn different things of what we'd probably be doing on the field, and just learning techniques that we might need if it just gets thrown at us. Then after that, we had lunch. After lunch, we had more classes until dinner. And then after dinner, everyone went to the big top, and we had our rally nights, which is there would be a teaching, but you'd also get to find out who had the cleanest tent site, eating site, but also who won the OC and who lost the OC.
Mm-hmm. And we found out that the Colombia team won the OC 3 times in a row, which was pretty amazing, and Madagascar got DQ'd quite a few times. So we had a lot of fun bantering about that.
Yeah, Madagascar went down.
We're just trying to let other teams win.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
You can't just take it all to ourselves.
Zane learned patience being the back flag because he was waiting on a girl.
So a normal day for us in Madagascar, after we got settled in, we'll wake up around 6:30, do devotions, eat breakfast, and did a little study in Genesis. And then usually after that we did work on our work project for about 3 hours until about noon, and then we ate lunch. And then we had this thing called library reading time, which is where we read books. And after that we went back out to work, and then pretty much after that we had about free time to where we can go and talk to the staff on the base, the Madagascar people, and play soccer with them and basketball and just talk with them. And then it was about dinner time, and then it was another devotions after that, and then it was about, like I said, around like 9:30. And that's a normal day. And then some days there's a lot of curveballs thrown at us. Some days we thought we were going to go work on the work project, and then the circuit rider, which is like the missionary to other villages, would come and be like, you got 10 minutes for loading up, we're going to Sunday school. And a lot of times we weren't really prepared for that, so on our drive to the Sunday school, we'd just be throwing things together to do with the kids and just what to do with them. So it was pretty fun.
An average weekday or work day on the Columbia team, we would get up, well, us girls got up around like 5:40. We like to get up early. And at 6:15 we had devotions, and then we had breakfast, and then we did 4 hours of work, and by then it was lunchtime, so we had lunch, we had library reading time, and then we did another 3 to sometimes 4 hours of work, and then we had free time, which was essentially bath and laundry time, and then we did Genesis study, we had dinner, and we did we did devotions. The boys had a group and the girls had a group, and then we had group devos, and then we all headed off to bed between 9 to 9:30.
So during the weekend for us, we worked half the day. So we would work till lunch, and then we would stop, and then after we had lunch, we would work on our presentation and come up with things to do and change our presentation a bit for Sunday for the churches. And even when we went and did stuff on Saturdays, we had to come up with something and change our presentation.
We put in a total of 7 sidewalks, and that was a lot of fun. Some of them were smaller, and then some of them were pretty big. That was a lot of work, but yeah, so we did 7 sidewalks.
For the Madagascar team, we got our main goal was to build the foundation for staff housing, which we were able to accomplish. We had to dig like about a 3-foot footer and lay cement in it, and then lay cinder blocks in it, and then do a big concrete pad on top, which we were able to do. And then we were also able to go to about a total of 4 Sunday schools and play with the kids and share the gospel.
We also, for the Columbia team, we took out some of the mountain up on the very top for housing that they were going to eventually put in the future. And we got that accomplished. We also built a framing for a room that they're gonna eventually finish off later. And then we also dug steps for the mountain for when they have future OC runs and everything, so that they're not slipping and sliding down the whole mountain. And then we also built a fence post to keep like dogs out and everything, which was a lot of fun.
One funny thing that happened this summer was we had a little like rat problem where we like slept, and it was at night. We're doing like a team devos, and one of the boys went to go use the bathroom in a dorm, and I think I went in there to go get like some gum, and I heard like a little squeak from the rat, and the boys come out the bathroom, and then like out of the corner of my eye he saw the rat and he like jumped on it and he caught it. So then that started a whole bunch of chaos, and everybody from doing team devos, all the boys ran into the room, got gloves, and they got the rat. So then one boy, his name's Judah, he ran outside with the rat, and it was like bouncing around with it, getting ready to throw as far as he could. And then after everybody funneled out to watch him, he like counted down from 3, 2, 1, and on 1, he like threw it over our base wall and into the night, and it like just disappeared. And then it probably died on impact on the ground, and that was pretty funny.
So, I was in a dorm with 2 other girls, and we were on a triple bunk bed. I was in the middle, and my friend Pearl was on the top. And we like to get up early. So one morning, my alarm went off at like 5:40, and I woke up and I reached for my backpack at the end of my bed, and something fell down behind me. And I hear Pearl above me go, "Oh my goodness, Bella, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I turned around, and one of the wooden slats that held her bed up had fallen down behind me, and I was like, "Oh no." So I picked it up, and I'm like on my back trying to figure out how to put this thing back up there, and one falls down by my feet. And then, like 5 seconds later, the whole bed, the slats, the foam mattress, her sleeping bag, and Pearl all fell down on top of me. And so we were just lying there for like a few minutes, just cracking up. And then Nakai came by, she was in the other dorm, and like knocked on her window, and she said something like, "Guys, you gotta stop being so loud, it's so early." But we were laughing like so hard, we couldn't breathe. It was so funny.
So we had just finished cement. We were on a break, and me, my friend Cara, Bucky, and Joel, we were talking with one of the guys at the base. His name was Suta. And so we were all just chatting and having fun. And then all of a sudden, we look to our side, and Bella comes running down the steps yelling my name. And so we asked what's wrong, and she said that the pipes broke. And so she was wondering where one of our leaders were so that he could help fix it. And so Bella ran and got our leader, while me, Cara, Bucky, Joel, and Suta run up to see what's wrong with the pipes. And what had happened is that we had to dig this mountain out. And so we had to pile the dirt up on top of the mountain. And so since it had just rained, the mud slid down, hit the pipes, and the pipes broke in like 5 different places, and everyone was trying to hold them together and keep the water. It was really funny. Everyone got soaked, but then our leaders came and glued everything together, which was nice.
So we had to split up our team like half and half because there wasn't enough room for all of us to go to one church. And so Nakai and I went to the same church. We went to 2 in total. But the first one we went to was in a downtown area of Bogota, and from the outside it looked like a pretty rundown building, but inside it was like a normal facility. But it was really cool because as soon as worship started, there were these dancers that came up, and they had like pieces of silk, and they had all of these dances that they were doing. And as I looked around, everyone was dancing and singing and clapping, and really just on fire for the Lord. And worship was the longest part of the service, which I personally loved. But it was really cool for me to hear songs we sing at church sung in Spanish, and just being able to worship with these people.
So the last church that everyone went to, we all went to this one. It was a nicer church. You could definitely tell that it was more like wealthier. It sort of looked like a church that you would see here. It was, very built up. They had air conditioning, they had like soundproof stuff. They had a really nice stage, drums, everything, like lights, fog machines too. They went crazy with those too at that church. But yeah, it was really built up, and it was definitely interesting going from the first one that we went to and then going to this one and being like, that's crazy that this one's so built up and then the other one's not. It was interesting.
So during our time on the field, we had evangelism opportunities for the Colombia team. We went out on Saturdays after our half day of work. And one thing we got to do was go to this soccer court, and we got to give a presentation for the kids. So we got to do some dramas that told the story of the gospel. We got to sing some songs and do a puppet show. And we got to sing some worship songs as well.
So before we played soccer with the kids, our teammate Pearl brought out the soccer ball that we would be playing with, which had basically the colors of faith, how you share your faith that way. After we had done the presentation, we played soccer with the kids. And even though we got crushed, it was a lot of fun. We split up into basically 3 teams because there were 3 different age groups. There was like maybe like 10 years old, and then like 5 years old, and like maybe 4 years old. Like they got pretty young, but we definitely got crushed. But it was a lot of fun running around with them and playing. They enjoyed it a lot.
For the ministry opportunities in Madagascar, we went to 4 Sunday schools in total, which is where pretty much all day we would drive to like a town or a village that circuit riders would go to once a week, and we basically just went along with them. And then when we got there, we would like do a presentation, do dramas, tell testimonies, sing songs, play with the kids, do puppets, all that. But there's 2 really, I guess, Sunday schools that really impacted, I guess, our team. One of them was one of the farthest Sunday schools. It was about a 3-hour ride in a big truck down narrow roads to get to them. And when we got there, for this village that we went to, in the big truck that we rode in, it was like a bad sign for them that they understood that people in big trucks, like how we were driving in, were like traffickers, and we're going to take them away from their families. So I guess it was just really cool to see them warm up to us when we got there. Like at first they were scared, they would stay some distance away from us, but then towards the end, after our presentation and playing games with them, they warmed up, and it was just pretty cool how they did that. And then another time, it was our last Sunday school, we're in like this other village, and there's like shops around. And while we were doing our presentation, a shop owner came out and was talking to our leaders, like what we're all about, what are we doing. And in the end, the leaders were able to share the gospel with them, and he accepted Jesus as his Lord and Savior, and that was pretty cool.
After we had played soccer and we left, a pastor came up to us and he wanted to show us where he was going to build his future church. And so he showed us, we walked to the site, and it was really cool. It was like this under area, and you could tell that it was in construction. And so we all gathered around in a circle and we all prayed over the site. It was really cool.
One thing I loved about being in Colombia was the view. It was so green. There weren't a bunch of like street lights or like pollution or anything, and so we just got it because we were up on a mountain. We saw the whole like city, and you could kind of see Bogota off in the distance, and so it was really beautiful. I also really loved the people on the base. They welcomed us in, and they really made it feel like home. They were really friendly, and we had a lot of fun playing games and having laughs with them.
I think my favorite thing about Madagascar were the people. The people were pretty fun. They're always like cheerful and smiling, and they're very, I guess, strong in their walk with the Lord. They didn't really care about what other people thought about them, which probably helped a lot of us to do it and serve the Lord without thought of what other people think about us. And then the view is also great. There's also a lot of mountain ranges, hills, flatlands with tall grass. It was pretty neat.
I loved hanging out with the Colombians. They were a lot of fun. We played a lot of volleyball, and a really fun game that they taught us with the volleyball, which we all loved. We played a lot of football. And then, it was a lot of fun hanging out with the Colombians and working with them. The view that we got on the base was incredible. None of the people on our team wanted to leave because of the view. It was just so peaceful, and it was really beautiful.
A couple ways the Madagascar team saw God work was, again, just the Sunday schools that we did, and just how the kids would warm up to us and basically not want us to leave. The shop owner that got saved. Just like when we had troubles, they always were solved in a short amount of time, and really just working with other people. That was pretty good of how we saw God work.
Yeah, it was also really cool because while we were on the field, we we had a lot of rough days. I mean, we were doing a lot of hard work. We were tired, we were exhausted, and there were a lot of times where just at the end of the day, or even by by lunchtime, we were done, we were tired, and that put a lot of strain on our team at times. Even our leaders were feeling it, and we really felt like the devil was attacking us in that way, just making us feel down, and what's the point of this? But anytime we felt that way, we would come together and we would pray, and God would help us to get through the day. He would help us to have fun, and so that was just a really huge blessing.
So one of the ways that the Columbia team saw God at work was right before we were about to present our presentation to the kids. It started pouring down rain, and it was so loud because the roof was tin, and so everyone on our team doing the presentation, we would have had to scream at the top of our lungs for them to actually be able to hear us at like a good volume. So we were all just talking about, great, like, are we gonna wait? Like, what are we gonna do now? And then I just kind of said, and like kind of a little group of us, like, God, please help it to stop raining. Like, we need to present to these kids. And then about 10 seconds later, the rain totally stopped, and we got to present to all the kids, not losing our voices. It was really cool.
Our first Sunday school that we went to, they were short notice. We were driving, and like we were going, like, they brought that truck that we drove in, like, to places you didn't think you could go through. Like, they were like this on the side of hills driving. Like, it was crazy. It was cool. But when we're driving there, one of the tires popped on the truck. So they parked off the side of the road, and then we had to walk the rest of the way to our Sunday school. It wasn't that far. It was a nice walk. But while we're doing our Sunday school, we're supposed to be like there for like an hour, I think they said. And then we got another notice that we need to stay there for another hour because the tire hasn't came in, and we need to play with the kids more. So we did another presentation on short notice, which was great. And then we left, we were walking, and as soon as we got to the truck, the tire arrived for the truck. So they're able to throw that on, and then we had a safe ride back home with no other popped tires, and no other tires popped on any of the other drives throughout the trip.
So something that God taught me on the trip was basically that He hears me, and that like whenever I pray to Him and ask Him for something, or even just talk to Him, that He actually is there with me. And also just like being in my Bible, because I like used to not really read my Bible because I'm not a reader and I'm not a morning person. So just after always having half an hour of Devos in the morning, when I came back home, I've been doing that every morning, and it's been really helpful.
Something that probably God taught all of us on the trip with just how going on a mission trip with Teen Missions, like, you're separated from your phone, from any like movies, TV, like nothing. You didn't really have anything, so you really lived in the moment with your team and talked to each other. So with just that, we're all able to just recognize that you don't need your phone. You can really mingle with other people and just live in the moment, and that you can also find time for devotions without it. It's not really hard to do. So all of us really we set our mindset just to go home and start doing devotions, because we knew we had the time to do it. The phone we can just put away and live in the moment.
Yeah, God taught me a lot on this trip. He convicted me a lot. A few of those things He convicted me about were, one, just how ungrateful I've been. I remember we went to a pastor's house before church one day, and it was one of the nicer homes in the district. But I just remember looking around, and it wasn't nearly as nice as, the homes we have here in America. And it was really convicting to me and I just felt him telling me like you have so much to be grateful for. And so I went home with the resolution of I'm never going to complain about my home or what I don't have that I want again. And other times during the trip we'd be doing devotions and he would just call me out as I was reading my Bible, just word for word, like what I was feeling, like, Lord, I can't do this right now. And he'd be like, my grace is sufficient. And it was just really cool.
I'd say like the really only culture shock that I had was toilet paper, because at boot camp it was the same on the field for us. We had our toilet paper rolls and we'd put them in our backpacks, and you'd go to the bathroom like that because you would bucket flush. So in Colombia we were able to flush the toilets as like you would here, but sometimes they'd get clogged or it wouldn't work, so we would have to bucket flush. But you can't flush the toilet paper, always then they'll clog it, so you'd have a separate bucket to the side where you'd put your toilet paper there after it was used. So then when we were going to the airports and everything, us girls, we would all be yelling at each other that we could flush the toilet paper and just checking with each other that it was like able to be flushed. It was pretty funny.
I mean, one of the things, it's small, but it took me by surprise because it's just not something we do all the time. I remember we had to stop for gas one time, and instead of getting out to fill up your car, you pay someone who works there and they will put in what kind of gas you want, and then they will fill up your car, hand you your change, and you're off. So it was just weird sitting in the car and being like, oh wow, we're not actually doing it ourselves, but we're having someone else do it for us. So that was interesting.
I guess I wasn't like super culturally shocked just because of like all the stories I've heard from mom and dad from them being overseas. But I guess one thing that I found that was pretty cool was like the churches in Madagascar. Like they had like 10 like big old speakers, 5 on each side. They cranked that thing up to like the loudest they possibly can without blowing it up. And they had like everything to the max, and like you just hear the tin metal on the roof just shaking, and like your legs would be shaking, your ears would lose a little bit of hearing. Like it was just funny. And then like one church, they had a fog machine. Like they were playing with that fog machine while they were singing. Like you just look at the speakers, like the little foam on it would be rattling off. Sometimes it'll fall off. Like they were worshiping up in them churches. They had as loud as they could.
They were our showers. It was like in a tin outhouse where we had our bathrooms and showers, and we didn't have sinks, we didn't have mirrors or anything like that. And this is mountain water, so it was freezing cold. Like I cannot emphasize that enough. But our showers were a concrete slab surrounded by tin walls, and then we just had a PVC pipe like sticking out of the side, and that was our shower.
If someone were to come up to me and say like they're unsure of going on a teen mission trip, but they're thought about it for a long time and they keep going back and forth between it, I'd honestly tell them, like, just do it. There's really nothing to lose. It's just one summer and you'll probably get changed from it. Like, you're not gonna miss anything at home. Just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I think if someone were to tell me that they were thinking about it, but they were really indecisive, what I would say is, go in realistically. I mean, it's going to be tough. There's, physically, mentally, you're doing a lot, and it's hard sometimes, and you don't have all the conveniences of home. You're bucket bathing, you're doing your laundry from a bucket, you're sleeping in tents sometimes. But I would also say go into it expectant. Like, go into it excited for what God is going to do, because he will do something. He will always be working, and you will be blown away by how he can work through one summer.
I would say that even just like having all the technology around us that we have, and like if you wanted to go with your phone and stuff, and even if you don't, like, you're totally separated from any technology and everything. You actually have no way, you're not allowed to contact your parents. If something happens, they contact your parents for you. you're allowed to like write letters and stuff. But I just say like you gotta be with new people, your team, and you really become a family with them. So it's like, for me and Bella at least, and like our team, we did not think about anyone like at home or anything, just because it was like we were having a new family. We had a new family, and it was just amazing getting to new people and experiencing the exact same things with everyone at the same time, and like being able to talk freely about even the silliest things and not feeling awkward about it at all.
In some ways, you can pray for Madagascar. While we were there, our last night, I think it was, they have a bunch of staff, Madagascar staff, that work on the base, and their teen missions boot camp is, I think, probably just started about now. So there's a bunch of kids coming in to go on a mission trip, and they're probably about just finishing boot camp, and they're about to go somewhere in Madagascar, somewhere around the world. So you can probably pray for them. And also, the staff just graduated like their Bible school there, and they're probably about to go on their year-long intern in another country or somewhere in Madagascar. So you can pray for that, and for the head missionaries, Mr. Mike and Miss Queen, who are like in control of that base, and just help them just find peace in what they're doing and just be able to do it with confidence and trust in the Lord.
Yeah, and for Colombia, one of the biggest things is just praying for all the missionaries there, teen missions and otherwise. It can be dangerous for missionaries there. There are a lot of people who do not want missionaries to be sharing the gospel. And so just for protection, but also for strength, it can be hard. There are days where you don't want to get out of bed and do the work, but you know that you need to. And so just for strength and also peace that God would provide for them, meet their every need, and just really keep them safe.
I would probably say another really important one for Colombia, and basically the base that we were at, is just praying for Mr. Pablo and his wife, Mrs. Sophie, as their heart is to really get the kids in Colombia and like Bogota and Sylvania before like the gangs and everyone get to them first, because they would really love it for them to stay safe. And so just that more and more kids come to their boot camp every year and just become a Christian and know God's love.
Alright, I'd just like to thank everybody who helped me raise the funds and just for me to just have the ability to go over to Madagascar and experience. And I'd just like to thank everybody who donated.
We want to say thank you to everyone who was praying for us while we were at boot camp and while we were on the field. Your prayers meant a lot to us.
Thank you for also the people who donated stuff to us so that for us to sell it so that we could come up with the money, and even just using your time that you had during your day to make those things up for us so that we could fundraise.